I gotta say, I gotta say, man, I've been enjoying this classic album discourse because I feel like it's needed, and I feel like I feel like based off of the discourse that we've seen, it supports the fact that I think it's needed, that it's been needed, because everybody seems to have their own idea of what makes a classic album a classic album. Some people look at how long a album's been on Billboard. Some people are using their own personal what they personally like as every album that they like is a classic, right? So it's just everyone has their own idea, and I feel like at this stage, man, I put up a post on Instagram the other day, and it basically said that I think the idea of a universal classic is dead. Now, I don't really mean literally like we can never see an album come up or be made that the overwhelming vast majority of people think is a classic, but I do think it's just extremely hard now for a universal classic to sort of to cut through, right? Because it's just so much at our disposal, right? So much music that's coming our way that the albums don't have time to become ingrained and rooted in the culture. And we'll talk about the culture in a little bit. They don't have time to become rooted in the culture, right? It's just on to the next. Even when we're doing reactions on my other channel, Lost in Vegas, it's like we'll do a reaction to this artist, and then everybody's like, okay, great, let's get to this next album. Let's get to this. Like 18 other albums dropped that week, and people were like, get to this album. And I'm like, damn, well, what about this major album release? The Fall Off is an example. We did the Fall Off. Everybody's like, okay, I did the Fall Off. And people are like, well, get to the Baby Keem. I did the Baby Keem. Okay, get back to this. And there's sometimes I miss albums, and people are like, well, get back to the other album that dropped last week. Get back to Dave, the Kid with the Heart. I know that that's not the title of the album, but you know the Dave shit. And it's just like, oh my God, like it's just everything moves so fast. So I feel like now that that's the case, now that we have social media and streaming in the equation, I think that we as old heads, I should say, right, unks or whatever the case may be, maybe we need to start looking at an alternative. Maybe we need to abandon the old 90s, yo, no skips, yo, this or that, like the old 90s, metrics, man, because things are different. Rap is not the same now in terms of how people receive it as it was in the 90s. And it's not fair to people that's coming up in 2008, 2010, that's made albums from the dawn of streaming, right? '08 on up. It's not fair to them for us to just constantly dismiss, their albums just because, I'm not hearing it outside. Because that was like the main thing for me. That shit needed to be ranked. In order for me to look at an album as a classic, I needed to hear it outside. I needed to see or feel the cultural immersion. Right, it needed to become the music needed to be immersed. It needed to permeate the culture. I needed to see it at basketball courts. When I went to the court, what was coming out of the boombox when we were hooping, when we were running fives? What was coming out that boombox? That usually was something that was really resonating. Right. When I went to the barbershop, who said what? What were the conversations? Right. When I was debating with my boys, who were bringing up their favorite rappers and all this other stuff. House parties. What was playing at house parties? What was playing at block parties? Obviously the club. What was ringing off when we used to go out to the clubs, right? I mean, but I'm just saying and when I say, I said I was going to get back to the whole culture thing. And when I say outside, I mean black people in the United States. I'm just going to say it. What the fuck did black people in the United States think of when they thought of, what were they talking about? What was brought up? When I went to go see my cousins, go see my cousins in Ohio, go see my family in different states, what were they saying as well, right? What was like sort of like, obviously this is a classic to people who were outside. Outside is United States, the culture to me, the heartbeat of the culture at least is black people in the United States of America, in urban environments, by the way. So, because not the suburbs, black people in the hood in the United States of America. Why? Why is that important? Because that is where hip hop comes from. Still to this day, the slang, the way people dress, the way they talk, and again, that kind of goes into slang. I mean, who made the term squabble up, right? Who made that term? It wasn't Kendrick. Shout out to Kendrick, but it wasn't him. It was some dude from the motherfucking LA jungles or something. I don't know. Sorry, LA people. I don't know what's up. Whatever LA hood, maybe part of some gang that said, yo, we squabbling. And then Kendrick, maybe being from Compton, absorbed that, became a famous rapper. And then he put it in a song and the rest of the world knows it. So the people that create the sauce, that's an example of the sauce. The dance moves, things like the Dougie, you know what I'm saying? And they were getting sturdy and all that shit them dance moves come from the hood. So I want to know what those people think. What do those people think? They're the innovators. They're the ones that's coming up with all the fly shit that everyone seems to copy. So what do they think about the music? Is the music hot to them? They deserve. I mean, I feel like that should hold the most weight. You know what I'm saying? Like, people make fun of Young Thug and Future. Actually, one of those people being me. I make fun of Young Thug's music. Actually, no, not too many people make fun of Future. Future's fire. You know what I'm saying? But some people make fun of Young Thug and some of these new school rappers. But till this day, they still control the swag. The cool shit comes from them. It doesn't come from the conscious, politically charged MCs. It comes the swagger, the energy, the innovation in terms of just black culture still comes from those guys. So you can make fun of the music and call it mumble rap and all that other shit, whatever people have said and I've said, but I've also acknowledged that the swag comes from there, right? Their music resonates with the hood. And that in the hood still creates all of the fly shit, the word fly, right? Still creates all of the innovation that is infectious enough to influence the rest of the world. You know what I mean? The cultural byproduct of hip hop, right, is black Americans in the hood. So that's why their opinion matters far more than anything else. That is the nucleus. That is the heartbeat of this hip hop thing. If those people don't say your shit is a classic, at least this is how I grew up, it's not a classic. And for people who don't like that, let me ask you a question. If a rapper is a big deal in China and they sell 5 million records in 1 week in China, and nobody in the United States cares about any of that. No black person in the United States, no one that comes from the hood in the U.S. where hip hop comes from, ground zero for hip hop. If no one even knows who they are, and they drop an album that 5 million people over in China think is a classic, does it make it a hip hop classic? No. The answer is no. You know it, I know it, we all know it. So I'm not trying to be divisive and just saying only black people in the U.S. I'm just saying that has been the barometer. That has been the standard. You know what I'm saying? Like, Illmatic was a classic in the hood first before it made its way to the rest of the world. 36 Chambers was a classic in the hood first. Aquemini and all these ATLs, Ain't No Outcast stuff, those were classic in the hood first before the rest of the world got on them and said that they were classics. So it has to be a classic in the hood first. We're not changing the rules now just because we have, maybe we need to change the rules. I guess that's why I made this video. But I guess now I'm seeing the rules being changed, and I'm wondering if it's the right thing. So now we're changing the rules to factor in Grammy Awards and all this other stuff that I'm seeing. I just think it's weird. I don't know how we do that. You know what I mean? Your music has to be played, relentlessly absorbed and loved. People need to be dancing to it, at a high clip. They need to be, slang quotables. People need to be quoting things. It needs full cultural immersion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to see it. You know what I mean? But again, I'm out of the loop, so maybe I'm not seeing it. But I kind of can get a feel for where things are, I can feel when something is hitting a heartbeat. I see how people react to it, even when I do my limited because I'm a homebody now. But when I do dip outside, I can see what's resonating. I can see what kids how they moving and how they talking and what sounds are coming out of cars and all that. I still see it, and I can still feel it to some degree. Not like I used to, but I can still feel it. Your music needs to be replayed at a high clip, absorbed and loved by black people in the hood to have a classic. I'm not hearing anyone say that. It needs to be said. I don't care what publications and magazines and award shows tell you. If people don't play your shit in those environments, it's not a classic in the rap sense. So it's just funny that people are using the word culture, and I'm just like, I like to ask people, well, what's culture? What does that mean to you? And you really understand where someone's at when it comes to understanding hip hop when they start saying outside entities that are not black people in the hood. It makes me look at you like, oh, you are clearly an outsider that is impersonating someone who thinks that they know what's up with hip hop. But the online aspect is kind of change things. Should culture now be considered? Should Reddit forums be considered culture? Should X opinions, people on X, be considered culture? Or is Reddit and X, are they just super fans that flood their timelines, that flood the timeline and sort of, just spread narratives to support their favorite rapper? Is it just really a small minority of 5,000 to 10,000 people that are online chronically all day trying to control the narrative, like obsessed, idol worshiping fans? Or does that really represent the culture? I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't know what's real anymore, it feels like. Our numbers, even when we're looking at Billboard, and if you want to factor in Billboard into the equation, with streaming now, we've seen that streaming can be manipulated. Things can be botted. Things can be, Numbers, fans can stay up all night listening to music and have it on replay. Not even actually not listening to music. They can stay up all night, have a song on replay, and all of a sudden they're running up numbers for their favorite artist. That's not indicative of the demand and the listening that artist is truly given. That's kind of cheating and rigging the system. So the system can easily be rigged. So can we even look at Billboard the same way we used to? Or if you are looking at numbers, to me, cultural immersion is number one. You know what I mean? Your shit, people have to be playing your music. Black people have to know your music when it comes to hip hop in order for you to have a hip hop classic. That's still number one for me. But I'm open to updating my shit. Maybe maybe things have changed and I should be looking at other things. I do think that I have to start factoring in I have to have an alternative to cultural immersion. Or I have to have something to add to that, I should say. And I put up on Instagram, I put up like a little whatever, right? A story, put it on my Instagram story, and I said like, yo, maybe songs and features. And I'm gonna add to what I put on my Instagram story. I think classic moments, right? Instead of looking at classic albums and that being the end all be all, because I feel like the idea of a classic album, just a universal classic, is just very difficult for that to be pulled off these days, right? I don't see it. It's too many. It's just the culture or hip hop or whatever is fragmented. At least it's fragmented online. And, there's old versus young. Old heads don't want to give up new sounds in music. They don't want to give it up to the new sounds and the evolution of melody and all that being incorporated. Young heads don't really identify with old school metrics and to evaluate albums, right? So there's that fragmentation. Then there's fans and stan bases that's making it fragmented. So, stans and fans will say everything is trash that comes out, and then they manipulate to some degree. They can manipulate the general public and thinking like, oh, is it trash? Am I supposed to think this album's trash? Because there's 10,000 super fan posts from said artist saying it's trash, so I guess it's trash, right? So now the general public is somewhat influenced by an album or negatively influenced by an album when it really wasn't even given a fair shake. So now that's made things crazy, right? So what I said in my Instagram post, I was just like, look, man, maybe songs and features should be the focus. Songs and features, but I'm going to add to that. Maybe songs and features will be under an umbrella called classic moments. Songs and features are part of your classic moments. Having a classic album, if you can do it, if you can somehow cut through and get a universal classic, that's part of it. Your performances. Jadakiss did an amazing performance on the Dipset versus Lox versus, right? His performance on that was incredible. It was a moment that we all remember, right? Obviously, songs and features, like, again, your individual songs and albums. Sometimes you may have an album that's not a classic, but it can have, classic songs, have incredible verses or very, very good songs. Even if they're not classic songs, they're very, very good songs that are high-level songs. So we should be factoring those in. And again, of course, features. J. Cole's feature run. How can we not factor that in? And I think what has happened is that people are using, whether it's old school heads, new heads, or whatever the case may be, they're using this sort of metric of, it's like an old, potentially outdated method of, how many classic albums do they have, to try to, I guess, dictate a rapper's impact. And I just don't think that that's the right way or the most relevant way anymore. Again, for the reasons I mentioned, is because it's hard to cut through and get a classic album. I don't think that's the most relevant way to measure an album's impact or artist's impact. So it's like, maybe we should just start, not saying we should completely forget about the possibility of a classic album, but maybe embracing the other things, right? Somebody like Jadakiss has had immense impact. You know what I mean? Does he have an undeniable classic? Probably not. But he has the impact, the Lox versus the moment there, all the dope features that was on Money, Power, Respect. Even if you don't look at Money, Power, Respect as a classic, all of the dope features, right? It's too hot. It's burning my mouth. That's why I spit it out. It must be, right? All of the even if you don't think We Are the Streets is a classic, how many dope songs are on that? How many dope freestyles has Jadakiss had? How many features has Jadakiss murdered? Right? Jadakiss has never had a whack verse. That's a thing that was a thing that people brought up, right? How many moments? All about the Benjamins and all that, right? All of these moments, like his career in terms of overall impact for factoring everything in is probably more substantial than a lot of rappers who had classics. I mean, I hate to do this, you know what I mean? But is Raekwon's impact on hip hop more substantial than Jadakiss's? Right? Raekwon has I'm using Raekwon as an example because it's the first person that came to mind. He has an indisputable classic with the Purple Tape, right? Is that more? Does that put him above Jadakiss all time because he has this universally recognized classic and Jadakiss doesn't? But he's going against everything else, all of the great songs and great verses that Jadakiss has had, right? I think that Jadakiss has had more impact on hip hop because of all these classic moments than Raekwon. So I just feel like people are using, oh, this artist doesn't have a universal classic again, as they're using that as a means to diminish the artist, and they're not factoring in everything, right? And I think if we factor in everything, it's a different story. You know, just use it all. Another thing that I heard was, an album has to have extremely high quality. It's got to be dense lyrically. It has to have a theme. It has to have concepts and all this other goofy shit. Dog, anybody saying that is a cornball, man. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. Let me name some songs off the top of my head. My Boo. That at night I think of you. I want to be your name, baby. Is that a classic song? I think it's a classic, right? I think that's a upper echelon classic. Everybody that I know that has heard that song, I don't give a fuck where you from. When that song comes on, it's over. This is how we do it, Montel Jordan, right? It's over. You know what I'm saying? Nelly has classic joints, right? Like, you do not have to have substance, and you don't have to have substance to have a classic album. You can have a dance feel good album or a party feel good album or any type of album without substance, and it can still resonate and be important to people. And let me tell y'all something right now. Hip hop started off as party music. Yes, it evolved and it changed, and then of course it became a little bit more politically conscious. Late 80s, early 90s, Public Enemy, and all these guys. But the bottom line is, hip hop was largely sort of an escapism for kids, man. It was a way for kids to take their minds off of the environments that they were from. They can just let loose, have a party, have a good time, and it was like put together with motherfucking sticks and chewing gum. You know what I mean? Records, old R&B records being scratched up and break beats being added, right? It was a form of escapism. Substance is great. I'm not opposed to substance in music. I love it. Some of my favorite records ever are substance-filled albums. I'm just saying that's not the end-all, be-all. And I would actually say that's the overwhelming vast majority of music all time isn't really substance-filled. It just, people care about the music. They care about feeling good and how the music makes them feel. You know what I mean? So all this substance talk in terms of what makes a classic is ridiculous, man. Gap Band, the Gap Band, outstanding. Girl, you knock me out. Exciting, make me want to shout. Is that some deep, dense, you know what I'm saying? Politically driven, socially conscious song? No, it's just an amazing singer in Charlie Wilson, an incredible band with the Gap Band with an infectious bass line and like funk groove has made one of the greatest songs of all time. So we have to stop at this. Oh, it has to be a theme oriented and concept. Stop. It's ridiculous and it's embarrassing. And it shows your ignorance when it comes to the history of hip hop. You know what I mean? You do not need substance in an album for it to be a classic. Your shit just needs to matter to the people. And I'm still kind of there, to the people who created it. It needs to matter. I think peer acceptance is another factor, I think. And what do rappers' peers think? Does Jay-Z look at Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole, right? And obviously he does. There's some weird shit going on with Jay and Drake potentially. I don't know. But the bottom line is, Jay co-signed Drake when he first got in the game, and so did Nas, and so did all these rappers. He co-signed Kendrick, clearly co-signs Kendrick. He obviously literally signed Cole. He gave them the stamp. I think if your peers say your shit is a classic and hip-hop greats that do it, people who are actually do it, who are in it, say it's a classic, then that needs to be factored into as well. If Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, these are the people who have dedicated their lives to it. If they think it's a classic, that needs to hold a lot of weight, right? So the people who come from the hood, that's where hip hop comes from. All the slang, all the swag, all the innovation comes from the hood still to today. You're right. The music has to be immersed in that environment. Peers have to co-sign it. Did your music stand the test of time, right? You know what I mean? Yes, I am one of those people that think classics takes time. I don't believe in instant classics. You know what I'm saying? Classics do take time. Sometimes albums can be great and it can make noise and then no one remembers them. They're like, yo, who the fuck made that album, right? So yes, that matters. Time matters. President Donald Trump came out to Many Men a couple years ago. He came out to Many Men. You know what I'm saying? So that's the effect of Get Rich or Die Trying, right? That is how that album is a prime example of cultural immersion. That shit was ringing off in every conceivable black space, any black thing that black people did. They were like that involved music. That album was a part of for years. Now we're looking at, we're going on over 20 years or whatever the case may be since that album came out, man. And Many Men was played by the damn president of the United States however many years later. That's what I'm talking about. These classic. Cardi B, if we're talking about classic songs, just did a Imaginary Players cover, right? Jay-Z's Imaginary Players from Volume 1. That's legendary to me, right? Does it inspire people? Does it come up in quotes? Do people bring up moments from the album? Do skits, whatever you have on it? Is it constantly talked about for years and years and years and years? Is it like, can an entry-level hip-hop head, not a super fan, can an entry-level to mid-tier hip-hop head, people who aren't obsessed with music, like, I think people need to realize the vast majority of the culture is made up of people who know MF Doom's shoe size or what underwear MF Doom wore are not, to me, representative of the standard hip-hop head. Those are extremists, okay? You are extreme, homeboy. You are digging in the crates, obsessive extremist when it comes to hip-hop. That is not what I consider a standard hip-hop head. A standard, normal hip-hop head, they know who the big dogs are. They know some underground artists. But can you appeal to those guys? Does your music sort of get to them, right? And I'm not talking about casuals. I mean, hip-hop. You talk to them and they can tell you a lot about hip-hop. They're just not obsessive, nerded out people. You know what I'm saying? And do the songs appeal to them is the question. And I think a lot of obsessive, nerded out people are online all day. You have to be. To care that much, you have to be like an obsessive, nerdy dude to be online all the time. I'm not saying here and there. You can hear it for the most part. Everybody can make their comments here or there. But if you are online daily, 24/7, saying how much you hate or love a rapper and every day, doggy, you are not what I consider a standard hip hop fan. You are on some other weirdo shit to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are an extremist. You're not a standard hip hop fan. To even care that much to me is like, you're on a level of obsessive idol worshiping nonsense that I can't even fathom. So you are not you are a very abnormal hip hop fan. But a normal hip hop fan that's not on some weirdo shit, your music needs to like resonate with them. You're right. You know what I mean? That's when they say the general public. I mean, a general hip hop fan, not a casual fan, not people, not outsiders, not foreigners. The general hip hop fan that knows his shit, maybe not to a nerd level, but knows what they're supposed to know, knows the major names, and knows maybe some underground joints, artists, knows your music. It can't just be super fans. I don't know if an album necessarily needs to shift things. Like I don't think every single classic shifted hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that that's the case. You know what I mean? I just think, again, cultural immersion is just, did it matter to people on a major level? And is it constantly being brought up and referenced throughout time? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm open to, updating things. I'm open to updating my metrics. But that's kind of what I've been fixated on. Seeing people bring up award shows and all this nonsense it's laughable to me. Jay-Z is my favorite rapper of all time. I've never once, when I've had a debate about Jay-Z's status in this game, ever in my life brought up Grammys. That's embarrassing. You are not a hip hop head if you bringing up Grammys. That's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? If anything, you're showing that you're the complete opposite of a hip hop head. You should get your hip hop card revoked if you say some nonsense like that. Grammys mean nothing. They're just people with opinions. If the Grammys was made up of KRS-One, Rakim, if the Grammys were all staple hip hop heads, old school legends, maybe that's something that they need to do to update it. If Rakim and Slick Rick and Hove and Nas and all these people made up the Grammys, maybe that's another story. If people we can identify that we know for sure, with beyond a shadow of a doubt, have dedicated their lives to hip hop, if they made up the Grammys, then I would feel like that award would have more weight. I know people, I'm not even gonna say names. My girl has a friend that has, that's part of the Grammy committee. She knows nothing about hip hop and she has a vote on hip hop. Come on, stop it. That means absolutely nothing. Stop bringing up Grammys. Stop bringing up, I don't give a fuck if a rapper won a damn Nobel Peace Prize. for their artistic work. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about none of that. That don't mean that people that come from that know hip hop care about that shit. So, people bringing up all these outside entities, man, they're embarrassing themselves, man. Why do you need validation from anywhere else? The only validation you should be looking for is for the people who created the shit. Where does the swag to this day, where does the ingenuity, the innovation come from? It comes from the hood. It comes from black people. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that, and again, this is not to be divisive, but because everyone, this whole ecosystem of hip hop, everyone plays a part. There are people who are of it and people who are fans, and we love everybody. Everybody counts. The fans count because they are providing the financials, for these rappers to be able to feed their families. They damn sure count. And I do believe that you don't necessarily have to be from the hood to be hip hop. But I do think, though, if you weren't born in the world of hip hop and you just aren't of it, which is being a black American in the United States, then I do think that the onus is on you to then dedicate and make your contributions known, right? You have to make your contributions, in my opinion. Eminem bleeds hip hop. He has contributed immensely to the elevation of hip hop. Eminem is hip hop. Drake is not from a hood in the United States, right? Because I brought up Eminem because Eminem's white. Drake is not from the United States, but he's contributed immensely to hip hop and helping elevate hip hop and expand it. Slick Rick is not from the United States, right? He's from England, but he is one of the most influential artists of all time. Nas is inspired by Slick Rick. When you think of Jay-Z making a Ruler's Back off of Blueprint 1, clearly it's because of of Slick Rick's influence there, right? Snoop Dogg on Doggy Style was inspired by Slick Rick, right? He made a song, I forgot the name of that one. What was the name of that song on Doggy Style where Snoop Dogg was rapping like Slick Rick? But y'all know that song, right? So Slick Rick is not from here. He's not from the United States. He's black, but he ain't from the United States. But yet nobody would question him being hip hop. So you can be hip hop and not be from here. But I do think it's up to you to make sure that, you showing love to it, you respect it, and you contribute to it. And then I think over time, yes, you can get that stamp. You can be a part of it. So anyways, man, that's where I'm at. That is what I've always factored into classic status. I think, again, we need to start looking at songs and classic moments. I think that's just what we need to do. I think classic albums are, what we consider a classic album. I think that's probably, it's just going to be hard moving forward. I think that the idea of that is just hard with unless we can overhaul social media and streaming dies. I just don't know if a universally accepted classic album is a thing. I mean, and again, I don't know when you see discourse online, when discourse online doesn't match real life, now what? How do we know it's a classic, right? Because online can literally be bots, right? Bots could be online, or obsessive nerdy fans could be online chronically every day. So when you say impact, what does that mean? Your idea of impact is just nerdy fans and bots. Help me understand what we should be looking at. So I just feel the whole idea of a classic album is dead. Maybe we just look at classic moments, classic songs, and features to get a full understanding of what an artist has done. I think it's harder for fans to fight classic songs and moments versus classic albums. I think it's just harder. You know what I mean? We know when a song hits and lands, and I think it's also easier for people to digest a classic song. Okay, that's a classic song, but thinking about a classic album, it's just a lot more that goes into it. And I think people's attention spans are done. I think social media has changed everything, and I just don't think it's realistic anymore. Maybe there could be exceptions to the rule that may come around here and there, but I don't know, man. Let me know what y'all think, man. I tried to keep this. I was going into this video saying, I'm gonna keep this video short. Couldn't do it, But anyways, yeah, man. Make sure y'all follow me. If you're new to the channel, man, make sure you hit the like button, hit the notification bell as well, and subscribe, man. This is George with Rhyme Rate. I'm out.